Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone, and good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the 12th talk in our mental health awareness Buddhist perspective series. In today's talk, we'll be looking at an interesting topic, just like how we did a couple times, I guess 11 times. In today's talk, we'll be looking at how to stop dwelling. Now, dwelling means dwelling the past or dwelling the future. So these both aspects trouble present moment. So this is what we'll be looking at today. We're going to look at it uh, from a contemporary perspective with some of the psychological perspectives, as well as bringing the Buddhist perspective during the time. If you have any questions about this particular topic, dwelling in the past, how to be fully present in the moment, please, uh, you know, write your questions in the comments below so that I can see those questions and I can answer them. Okay, now what is dwelling with regard to our life? Psychologically speaking, this is an overreaction, or I would say, in modern terms, I would say, overactivation of a certain part of your brain. Now, this particular place of our brain is called default mood network. So we have a place in our brain called default mood network. So this particular place is always overactivated unless we are fully present in the moment. So what happens is that this particular place, which we understand by default mood network, we call it stimulus independent thought. Or in other words, in our jargon, we could say it's a background thought, right? So these background thoughts, they are always turned on. They are always working unless we turn it off by putting us into mindfulness. So, for example, if you are not fully present, if you are not mindful, then your uh, automatic focus switches back to this default mood network, which we understand by stimulus independent thought, wherein which there are a plethora of plenty of background thoughts happening. Now, the psychologists found out that they discovered the moments where people are so unhappy are the moments where their background thoughts, or I would say these stimulus independent thoughts, are turned on. That means whenever they are not into mindfulness, when they are not into the present moment, their what you call the default mood network or the stimulus independent thoughts are turned on, and uh, there is a potential highly likely chance of having background thoughts where you are really unhappy. Now, this is something that we can discuss about why we dwell in the past. So, you will be automatically taken to the past because you are not fully present, and your background thoughts, or I would say your default mood network of your brain, which you understand by stimulus independent thoughts, are turned on. We could actually turn them off. That's what we are supposed to do in terms of psychology uh, in that perspective. Now you understand, we we generally go back to our past whenever we are not fully present. Actually, if you are not fully present, the mindfulness always attempts us to uh, put us into the moment. So if you are not mindful, then you are directly taken to the default mode network, where in which you have the stimulus, independent thoughts, background thoughts. So these background thoughts are always give us an unhappy time because they are just raw thoughts. They are just you know, uh, thoughts that are not filtered through very well, wherein which we may have a lot of frustrations, a lot of trauma. So this is the kind of scientific, psychological perspective of what we understand by dwelling in the past or dwelling in the future as well, right? Now, as we all know, there is not an argument that we can't go to the past or to the present or to the future, because we may have to go to the past or we may have to go to the future. There's no problem. We may have to go, but we should not dwell in the past. No, we should have to dwell in the future. Because why we have to go to the past? Just go there and then see mistakes, blunders. Probably we're gonna learn some lessons out of our past. Why we wanna go to the future is that we wanna plan ahead, but do not dwell in the future. So dwelling in the past or future is a problem. Going to the past or future to, to learn something or to plan ahead is no problem. Okay, so dwelling is the problem. Now we have a lot of things to talk about with regard to Buddhism, especially uh, holding on to the past or holding on to the future, or dwelling in the past or dwelling in the future. So they are really discouraged, especially with a very important Dhamma perspective, especially with regard to aggregates, five aggregates. Now, what do many people do in terms of getting over, or I would say, you know, moving on with what they have in their normal life when they are actually having a lot of trauma in their past? They are normally doing self contradictory, or I would say self destructing things, such as I would say, uh, displays anger, substance abuse, overeating, rigidity, sleep disorder. These are the things that they are actually trying to do to cover up, to get rid of their trauma. Actually, this is not a healthy way of thinking, because it's like, you are slapping a band-aid, you know, because your wound might not be healing because you actually slapping it. So we have to find out healthy ways to cope up with the trauma, because if it is trauma, definitely we have to cope up with uh, the positive and then non-destructive ways, probably interventions in psychology. That is how we're gonna look at it. But most people, what they do is that they wanna uh, compartmentalize or shut parts of themselves off as a way to cope, which is not a good thing. You don't need to shut off. You don't need to compartmentalize, because it is something that is visible. I mean, you don't need to hide it. You can actually face it, look at it, and you want to move on with a very conscious perspective. Now, we understand that we should not self destroy ourselves simply because we have a trauma. On the other hand, we have to keep in mind that we have a lot of lessons to learn from the past, and we have to plan ahead for our future. But we should not dwell living the past or living the future, because they are unnecessary. You can't change that much, because the past is gone and the future is yet to come. Now let's take a look at of some important aspects of time. Now, have you ever heard about something called time traveling? In Buddhism, we don't see time traveling in a way that is acceptable, because physically you can't do that. I mean, for example, you can't go back to 1800 with your body, but you probably be able to go back to the past, even uh, you know farther than that time, by achieving some of the I would say absorptions. I would say some of the psychic powers, which is very rare. But there is a facility for someone to practice. Now, if you understand some of the jhanic powers, some of the knowledge powers of some of the I would say arahants and some of the full buddhas, you can see they have some knowledges called Pubbe Nivasanusati Jnana, which means that the full Buddha can go back to the past and see what really happened. I mean, time traveling is okay, possible, only if it is done mentally. But it is not going to work if you think that you can do physically. I mean, in Buddhism, I mean, I'm not talking about physics, but so time traveling in a physical context can be self contradictory because it violates the basic causality. Basic causality means the cause and effect. I would say paticca samuppada concept. Because if you think that you can go back to that past physically, that fundamentally violates the causality, basic causality. So we don't actually believe in that. Uh, I mean, we don't believe in a time traveling uh, with a physical aspect, but we believe in time traveling uh, from a mental perspective. Now, we could talk about forward time traveling and backward time travel. All these are possible for a Buddha because they have this Pubbhe Nivasa Anusati and Chutupapata. Now, Chutupapata means the full Buddhas know the exact times of people, beings, birth, and their deaths in the future, which means that is forward time traveling. And if they can know the past, that means backward time travel. That is possible only if you have some jhanic powers, some psychic powers. But other than that, you can do that physically in Buddhism because it violates the causality concept. Now, these are fundamentally not yet happenings, which are called by the past stuff, presently happening, uh, the present moment, and the stuff that are happening with that, and no longer happening. It's probably going to be happening in the future. Now, we all are dealing with all that. Now, in short, what I can suggest you is that go to the past, but don't dwell it. Learn the lessons out of your past. Come back here. Don't stay there. Go to the future. Plan ahead for that future, but come back here. Don't stay there. Don't dwell in that future. Don't hold on to your future. Don't hold on to your past. And uh, make use of your present moment to the best of you by using your past and the future, but not holding on to the past or the future. So, present moment is the most important moment because this present moment will be your past in a moment, and this moment uh, I mean if you don't spend this moment very well, you won't have a good future too. So we have all the aspects of time in this present moment. Okay, so now let's take a look at of the Buddhist perspective at this point. Dhamma folks, if you have any questions here, let me see any questions so far. Time traveling, timing, uh, living in the past or living in the future, living in the present time. Any questions? Please type in under the comments. I can take a look of these questions and answer real time. Okay, Buddhist perspective. Actually, Buddhism uh, lays a high emphasis on the time. I mean, not the time that we know. I mean, from these technical terms, because now we understand that there are many things that we can discuss about the time, especially now if you look at time in regard to life and the nibbana, crossing the samsara. There is this concept called appamada. Now appamada is such an important concept where people are encouraged to think about that that you have to make use of each moment to become a better person. So that is a kind of a secular context of appamada. Appamada means diligence, right? Because in couple suttas, Buddha clearly mentions that all the virtues, regardless of 10 paramitas or four divine abodes, whatever virtues, all these virtues, they lie inside appamada. And he brings an example, a simile actually. The simile is that he is asking people to think about different sizes of feet in the forest. Now, Different sizes, if you take a look at of different sizes of feet of animals in forest, you can see that the size of an elephant is far bigger than any being in the forest. So Buddha's attempts to say that all the sizes of feet of other animals can be fitted into the size of an elephant. In the same way, appamada accommodates all the other virtues. If you put patience, if you put compassion, if you put any other virtue, loving kindness, equanimity, altruistic joy, dana, whatever, everything, all the virtues that we know in Buddhism are fitted into the appamada concept. That means if you are not diligent, you will never make them happen. It is only by being diligent you will perform, you will fulfill all the good things in your Dhamma journey. So, in that perspective, Appamada has a very secular, I would say, secular context of our life. It is also very important to understand the other important side of Appamada, that is to attain Nibbana. So, we have to make use of each moment to become a better person in our life with Appamada. Without Appamada, we will not be able to uh, make us to the next level. I mean, this is also the Buddha's last word, Vaidhamma Sankhara Appamadin Sampadit. All sankharas are subject to change. So be diligent. Appamadin Sampad. So you have to use diligence to practice all the other good qualities, virtues. So that means Appamada is uh, undoubtedly connected to time. I mean, not the physical time we know now in the contemporary context, but the time, the time that we are spending in the modern context. I will get into Appamada later, but I wanted to talk about timing, especially this dwelling in the past or the future with regard to the present moment with couple suttas. I'm going to use couple suttas for that, but I initially start with this sutta called Baddekaratta Sutta. Now, Baddekaratta Sutta means analysis of one fine night, which is mentioned in Majjhima Nikaya 131. Let me quote. Now, in this sutta, what happens is that there are a couple suttas in the same name. I would say Baddekaratta Sutta, which was uttered by the Buddha, and then 100 and I guess 132nd Sutta, which is called Ananda Baddekaratta Sutta, which was actually uttered by Venerable Ananda, and then Mahakachana Baddekaratta Sutta, which is the Majjhima Nikaya's 133 Sutta, that was uttered by Venerable Mahakachana, and then 134th Sutta, which was uttered by Lomasakangi, Venerable Lomasakangi. Actually, this was actually elated by a deity called Chandana to Venerable Lomasakangi, Lomasakangi Baddekaratta Sutta. All these Baddekaratta Suttas carry the same context, I mean, which I am going to explain to you, which has such a very important aspect of timing, which we have to utilize in our life. Let me quote. Atitang nanva gameya nappatikanke anagata yadatitang pahinantang appattancha anagata. A lot of people translate this to be the past, future, present moment. Actually, this has a different meaning. Atitang nanvagameya. Atita nanvagameya means do not seek your past five aggregates. Now, when you say the past, that means a functioning of life with five aggregates. So do not look at the five aggregates you had in the past. Okay? Because when you say you existed, that means those five aggregates at that time. Nappati kanke anagatam. At the same time, do not look for the hope for the five aggregates in the future. That means you would have the five aggregates. Actually, you not only have the five aggregates, we would say that you have the five aggregates with five clingings, Panchupadana khandhas. But at the moment, I will just separate out it to be five aggregates. So do not look for the five aggregates you had in the past, and do not look for the five aggregates you will be having in the future. Why? Why you should not? Yadatītaṃ pahinantaṃ appattanca anagataṃ. The past is left behind and the future has not arrived. So, previous five aggregates are left behind and our future five aggregates have not yet come. So, why should we worry about these past five aggregates and the future five aggregates? So, we have to understand then something in between the five aggregates in the past and in the future. So, let's look at uh, what kind of a healthy view that we have to have about the present moment. Should we go by the five aggregates? You might. Pachupannancha yo dhammang tattha vipassati. Asanghirang asangkuppang tang vidva manubruhai. Now, Pachupanna means the present moment. Pachupannancha yo dhammang tattha vipassati. Okay, so if you notice any phenomena, with regard to the five aggregates that are arising time to time at different times, because five aggregates are always arisen differently, right? That is how we're going to get grown up, right? If you can look at the uh, the origins of those five aggregates time to time at this moment, at the moment, in the present moment, with anicca, dukkha, and anatta, which means the vipassana, vipassana perspective. If you can use vipassana perspective to look at the five aggregates that are being arisen at the moment, then asanghirang asangkuppang tang vidva manubruhe. That would help us to find the way out, which means to deconstruct uh, the trauma that we may have had in the past or the future, will be having in the future. So now Buddha clearly demonstrates to us that what he mentioned by not looking at the past is not just the past events. He's very adamant that by saying that not looking at the past means that we are bringing up a lot of events attached to our five aggregates in the past. My body, my rupa, vedana means my feelings, sanya means my perception, sankhara means my fabrications, and my vinyana. So if you separate out all your past events which brought you, which is bringing out a lot of trauma to you, they are none other than these five aggregates. That is why the Buddha says, do not do not uh, go to the past, because the past has your five aggregates. Now, I mean, generally speaking, we will go there to learn something, but we are not going to stay, because a lot of people, they get stuck in the past because they are really upset about what happened with their five aggregates. Their thoughts, their perceptions, criticism, blames. Probably they were overwhelmed, they were the fames and all that. They are all attached to the construction of five aggregates. Then if Buddha demonstrates us to ignore the five aggregates that we had in the past, and also to ignore the five aggregates we will be making in the future, then he's asking to replace something with the present time. Now, this is what you do with mindfulness. If you go into a mindfulness retreat, if you want to practice mindfulness wherever, with whoever the monk, whoever the nun, whoever the upasaka upasika, what you are supposed to do is that you need to bring anicca, impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, anatta, no ownership mentality into the five aggregates that are arisen at this moment. That is mindfulness. Now, I will actually connect this to the psychological concept. Now, we talked about what you call default mood network. We said that in our brain there is a part called default mood network. There is an over activation. That is how we can actually have background thoughts, uh, where to which point our mindfulness is going to be switched off, and then the background thoughts, or we would say stimulus independent thought or thoughts, are activated or turned on. That is when we can actually get into the past or to the future. Therefore, we need to look at the present, even the present moment, with vipassana. Vipassana means a mentality that where you bring anicca dukkha anatta perspective into the moment, because you want to see panchakanda, five aggregates, with anicca dukkha anatta. That is how Buddha asks us to stay in the present time. That is mindfulness. I don't know, I mean, what mindfulness people are talking about, but mindfulness, the Buddha talks about in these sutras, mean that you have to deconstruct, because Panchakanda is a construction. You have to deconstruct these five so you will see the truth. You will see the reality. Okay. Evang viharing ataping aho ratta matanditang. Matanditang. Tangve badde karathuti santo achikkate muni. Now, the title of the sutta is Badde Karatta suggests something very interesting. One fine night, the peaceful person explained it's those who keenly meditate like this, looking at one's present panchakhandas, true, or with the support of Anicca Dukkha Vipassana perspective, they meditate like this very well. Tireless all night and day, would truly have that one fine night. If you want to actually spend a night very well, if you want to spend your night very well, this is the best, the most way to spend your night. If you can deconstruct your five aggregates with the support of Vipassana, that would be the best night you would be having. I don't know, give it a try. Now let me read for you in Pali, just to get a sort of understanding in the real Pali language. Kathancha bhikkhave atitang anvagameti. Evang rupo ahosin atita madhananti tatta nanding samanvaneti. Evang vedano ahosin atita madhananti tatta nanding samanvaneti. Now, we can bridge this in this kind of a context. I had this feeling at that time. I had the trauma in a couple years back. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about that feeling I had 2 years ago, probably with my partner, probably my parents, probably my childhood. So I'm very much upset about it. And so you are stuck with the Vedana Kanda, the second aggregate of the five aggregates. So also other things, sanya, perceptions, and you bring perceptions to future times. So it is very clear that we are not dealing with the events in terms of dwelling in the past. We are always dealing with panchakhandas and the related stuff when it comes to the dwelling in the past. It is the same thing. So, how do people actually do this? And how do you run back to the past? You must delight there, thinking, I had such form in the past. I had such feeling in the past. I had such perception in the past. I had such fabrication in the past. I had such consciousness in the past. That is how you run back to the past. And how do you not run back to the past? How do you not go to the past? Buddha says, you don't muster delight there thinking, I had such form in the past. I had such feeling in the past. I had such perception in the past. I had such fabrication in the past. I had such consciousness in the past. That is how you don't run back to the past. Because you know that you are not supposed to go back. Because you should not delight in there. You are simply going there to learn something and come back here. That is how we are supposed to do. In the same way, when it applies to future, katancha bhikkave anagatang patikangati. Evang rupo siyang anagata madhananti tattha nandiyang samanvani. Evang vedano siyang, evang sanyo siyang, evang sankharo siyang, evang vinyano siyang, anagata Madhananti, Tatta Nanding Samanvani, Evanko Bhikkhave Anagata Patikankati. In the same way, Katancha Bhikkhave Anagata Na Patikankati. How do you not hope for the future? Anagatang na Patikankati, Evang Ruposiyam, Anagata Madhananti, Tatta Nanding na Samanvani. So, when it comes to the future, you are not running to the future because you are not constructing, you are not so much into the construction of the aggregates for the future. Now it's very clear what we are supposed to do in terms of our time, especially the time that the Buddha talks about. What we are supposed to do is we should not run into our previous past five aggregates and the stuff. That is not a good thing. And in the same way, we are not supposed to run into our future aggregates. But what we are going to do is that we are going to look at our present five aggregates with anicca dukkha anatta perspective. That means vipassana perspective. How do we do that? For example, I would say I have a Vedana at this point. I'm happy. So how do I bring about anicca dukkha anatta to this moment? I have to understand the Vedana feeling I have now is transient, is changing all the time, even now. So at the same time, if it is changing, if it is subject to changing, then I have to understand I will end up with a dissatisfaction. Anicca dukkha. Then dukkha will arise because I have a happiness. I call it as happiness. So once it is gone into the dissatisfaction level or unsatisfactoriness level, then I will have to understand I can call that it is this Vedana is mine, it's me, myself. So I'm going to actually deconstruct myself from the Vedana. I don't call, I don't see this Vedana as myself, as me, as something that I have to develop in the context of I. That is how I bring my Vedana, present Vedana, to a level of anicca dukkha anatta, or bring vipassana perspective, anicca dukkha anatta perspective into my present Vedana. In the same way, sanya, my perceptions, sankhara, my fabrication, which I gave a lengthy talk a couple months back, and vijnana, I had to always bring anicca perspective, dukkha perspective, anatta perspective. This is not actually pessimistic. Buddha never said we are not supposed to enjoy, especially lay folks. You have to enjoy the moment, but by keeping anicca dukkha anatta in our mind, that is how we're gonna enjoy the moment. Not that thinking everything is not changing, everything is always satisfactory, and there is always ownership. That is not good. Okay, now let me get into some of the, I would say, Dhamma concepts where we find out time. And then this whole thing called being in the past, I would say, holding into the past and the future and destroying the present moment kind of Dhamma matters in some of the text. Sakkaya Ditti. Now, Sakkaya Ditti is always described in a way that we have to understand 20 types of Sakkaya Ditti perspectives. Now, they are none other than the context of the Bhaddekaratta analysis. In the Bhaddekaratta Sutta, Buddha always says 20 aspects of Sakkaya Ditti, the personality view, is what I say this by holding on to the past and to the present and to the past and to the future. So there is no difference with regard to timing when you look at Sakkaya Ditti context and the Bhaddekaratta context. It is the same thing because Sakkaya Ditti is what we are having out of the mismanagement of our five aggregates. That is a mismanagement of the time, right? So Sakkaya, this is directly connected to the time. Vichikicha is also a part of the timing because under Vichikicha we always talk about ruminating about our past lives, ruminating about our future lives, which is precisely about timing, right? There are people who are always thinking about, thoughtful about, uh, who was I in the past? Who am I going to be in the future? Right? They actually mismanaging their, uh, you know, uh, I would say mindfulness, or I would say their moment, their timing. That is why Buddha asks us to think about Sakkaya Ditthi is the first entry gate that you have to get rid of. Otherwise, you won't be able to get into the Dhamma. In order to get rid of Sakkaya Ditthi, you need to understand that Sakkaya Ditthi is nothing but the best management of your timing, especially not putting you into the past or the future. Vichakiccha is also part of that. And Kukucha. Now, Kukucha is very important. Kukucha is what has happened to you when you are not managing very well of your past and the future. What is Kukucha? Now, in Abhidhamma, Kukucha is a part of dosa. Now, in the five hindrances, we know Kukucha is a uh, dual kind of hindrance. We call it Uddacha Kukucha, restlessness and worry. But in the Abhidhamma, it has separated, it has, I would say, dichotomized. It has dichotomized into two. Uddacha is always present whenever you are doing akusala. That is a universal akusala. There are four akusalas that we all have when we do a bad thing: ahirika, anuttappa, moha, uddhacha. That ahirika means we are not shameful about what we are doing when we are doing akusala. Anuttappa means we don't have fear, moral fear in doing bad things. That is also present in all bad activities. And moha means that we all are deluded, ignorant. That's why we are doing akusala. And then uddacha. Every moment you are doing an akusala mentally, physically, verbally, your mind is restless. But why kukucha was taken out of this thing? Why it was put into the dosa? Because kukucha arises from dosa, hatred. Kukucha can arise from two aspects. Either you may be worried about something you did good, or you may be worried about something you did in the form of bad activity, bad action, word, speech, or thought. But oftentimes people are worried about some of the bad stuff. But there are people who are also worried about their good things. They do a good dana, but they uh, are carried away by something they couldn't do. Okay, I could not offer this thing to the monk. I could not bring my favorite dish. I couldn't do that. So they are very worried about that. So they are actually sort of conflicted with what they could not do. So worry can arise for the good sake, for the bad sake. Now, if you take a look at of the contents of your past stuff, where you are really held on to, or the future stuff, they are most likely worries. They are most likely coming out of worries. So that is why you have to be very careful. Every time you have to think about that before you do anything, reflect upon the consequences, as the Buddha said in Ambalattika Rahuluvata Sutta. Pacha vekkitva kaya kamma karoti. Reflecting, you're going to do that particular physical action. The same way, speech and your thought. Always reflect. What will this bring to others? So you won't do anything that will be taken into worries. Okay, what can you do to overcome uh, this holding on to the past, or dwelling in the past, or dwelling in the future problem? Appamada, as I said, appamada is the finest, the best solution in the first place. There are other things. As I said, if you set your feet on appamada, you are good. You are protected. You are guarded by that thing. This is why we always mention this gatha, 21st gatha in the Dhammapada, which we all know. Appamadu amata padang, pamadu machuno padang. Appamatta namiyanti ye pamatta yathamata. Diligence is the way to the deathless. Now, a lot of people, they get misconstrued, misunderstood. There's a way to deathless. No, this is not the immortality. This is the immortality in the sense of not facing, not encountering jara and marana again and again. Pamado machuno pada. That means non-diligence. When you are not diligent, when you don't have appamada, that is the way to death. Now, this is why we are dying, because we are not diligent enough in terms of dham. This is why we are dying. Appamatta namiyanti. Those who are diligent do not die. And those folks, Arahants, Pacheka Buddhas, Samma Sambuddhas, not only them, but also even the Sotapandas, because they take care of their future Bhava life, confining, limiting it to a seven life. There is no eight birth, right? It is said that they don't take the eighth life, as in the Ratana Sutta. So they are actually already tapped into the, uh, curtailing, shortening their sansaric life. So they are mindful, they are diligent. Ye pamattaya tamata. Those who are not diligent, they are as if already dead. Although they are living, they are already dead because they are always rotating in this issue of sansara. Evang visesato nyatva appamadam hi pandita. Appamade pamodanti ariyanan gocharirata. 22nd stanza. Fully comprehending this phenomena, this Dhamma matrix, appamada. The wise, they are supposed to be wise, who are diligent, rejoice in being diligent and find delight in the domain of the noble ones, Arya. So this is, we have to find delight, seek delight in the domain of Aryans, those Aryans who have already finished their journey from the sansara. Okay, so the first thing that I encourage you to do is appamad. Start from appamad. So always be diligent, always practice diligence. You need to do something to your life. You don't be a late person at the same time. You shouldn't be somebody who is procrastinating, putting off your Dhamma activity, especially doing good things to others. I would say dana, charity things, and sila, bhavana, and all that, right? All these good activities should be simultaneously practice by everybody. So this is what we're gonna do by saying appamada. Second important aspect, or I would say the step that you can do to stay on to the present moment is none other than mindfulness. Now, this word has a lot of implications, flows. Now, mindfulness in the West and mindfulness in the East, they could be different. If you take a look at an Easterner, especially in those Theravada countries and those places, they practice very serious meditations. You won't find a lot of Buddhists who practice meditation. There may be Buddhists, but they are not the majority. But in the West, if you come to the West, most of the people who claim that they are Buddhists, they practice meditation. That is how they practice. Maybe secular, not that serious. For the daily life, they might practice the meditation. Whatever the meditation we practice, I would say anapanasati, breath meditation, I would say metta meditation, loving kindness meditation, karuna meditation, mudita, upekka, whatever the meditation you practice, it is okay. Because you like it, you continue it. But the most important thing is try to incorporate whatever the meditation you do into the present moment. Don't make it only a daily, don't make it only to a sitting practice. A lot of people, they sit and practice. When they get out of that practice, they go back to the same everyday attitude. That is a good thing. Try to bring this attitude to your daily life, right? Try to bring mindfulness to daily activities, all the activities, whether you are driving, whether you are talking, cooking. It's not a big thing. What you are doing is that in the simplest form, you are gonna be with the particular activity. That is the simplest form. The deepest form, as we discussed with the Bhante Sutta, is that you are trying to deconstruct your five aggregates mentality. Don't attach to your five aggregates. Don't believe that I have to like it, I have to dislike it, I have to hold on to that. Just look at your five aggregates with anicca dukkha anatta perspective. You have zero conflicts, you have zero commotions, zero fights, zero arguments, zero criticism, because you know what you are doing. But a lot of people, they are not thinking. They are always thinking, I exist, Rupa exists, my Rupa exists, my Vedana exists, my Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, they all exist. That is when you have a hard time with trauma, because you are then keeping some of the events of the past, some of the events of the future, and you never see the present moment. The present moment has to be understood by looking at past and the future, by deconstructing your aggregates. At the same time, look at your aggregates in the present time with vipassana. So that should be your emphasis, your primary notion towards the mindfulness meditation. I don't say that you have to do this particular meditation and that, but whatever the meditation you practice to become a fully aware person without judgment. So this is the basic nature of mindfulness. The another important thing that I wanted to say is that never ever do an action, a speech, make a thought which you think that you will get bad consequences. If you know, never ever do that. But there are people who want to try it out. I don't care. Because Buddha says, if you know that you will be very tearful in the future, if you know that these will bring about bad consequences, why you want to execute it? You don't need to. You don't have to. Then you are minimizing your future trauma, future issues, especially with regard to the time. Right? So, appamada concept, be diligent, be mindful, and then execute all the good activities that will bring you wholesome consequence, holistic consequence. Never ever execute anything that you don't know what's going to happen, especially with regard to your life. I'm not talking about your work life. What we can learn from the contemporary context about living in the present moment. Okay, number one is remember whatever the past trauma, whatever the issue you think you have in the past is connected to you, because you are the author of your own story. If you have a book you written in the past having 100 pages, you take a look. I mean, if you turn to the page number 14, that is your age of being 40. In the same way, if you turn the page of 50, that's the page that you wrote when you were 50. You are the owner. Don't blame on other people. Don't blame on you. Rather blaming you, try to look at what really went wrong and how I can grow with all that. So remember, nobody has done, mostly, even if you think that there may be some issues from other people, but oftentimes it is you. Number two is learn from your mistake, which I always say. They are good lessons. Rather blaming anybody, learn out of all that. Also, there are other things that you can do. Now, for example, I would say compassion. Now, compassion is the concept, but when it comes to our life, we would say it is kindness. We have to be very kind to us. You don't need to torture yourself. Because this is a precious life. Simply because somebody blamed you, simply because you had some trauma from somebody, simply because you don't seek enough support, simply because you don't know what to do with that, you should never take yourself for granted, because you are more important than that particular trauma. You still have a life to carry on, right? There is no one who was not criticized in this whole world. Even the Buddha was criticized by many people. Remember what happened with the Upasaka called Atula. Atula Upasaka wanted to learn Dham, so he approached couple Arahants. He approached, I can't remember some of the names, one monk who was very famous in giving Dhamma talks at the Buddhist time. And that monk gave a talk that was really interesting, but he didn't like it. He said, I'm not happy about this Dhamma talk. And then he approached, I think, Venerable Anand, I guess, and he gave a very lengthy Dhamma talk. And then he didn't like it too. And then he approached Arahant Sariputta, and Arahant Sariputta gave a very deep Dhamma talk with Abhidhamma. He didn't know anything about it. And then he approached the Buddha and they said to the Buddha, you know what? I've been trying to learn from these very famous arahants, but I don't like them because I didn't learn anything out of them. And then when Buddha said the Dhamma talk, I mean, gave the Dhamma talk to him, he was very happy because Buddha knows what to do, what to focus on, not just a normal Dhamma talk. He knows where to focus. And then the Buddha said, "There's nobody in this world who is not blamed by other people." So even the Buddha was blamed by other people. But the most important thing is how he processed the blame, right? Now, for example, we always mention this to many. When he was blamed by many, he was not even talking back to that person. He was very silent, very calm, very quiet. But once the person finishes the blame, then he starts asking, "Are you done with your blame?" That is how he was responding. As Buddhist, we are not supposed to talk back. If we are going to talk back, I mean, depending on the situation, but as a real Buddhist, you can't do that. But we understand there are different people. We are not going to change people, but we are behaving in a way that is very holistic, wholesome to us and to other people, right? Now, a lot of the reasons, I mean, many reasons that are actually going around the past trauma, that where people think that I want to go back to my past. And then what happens, they have a lot of background thoughts coming up with that psychological theory, right? And then what happens, those thoughts are really giving them unhappiness because they are not fully present. That is why the Buddha asks all of us to be present all the time. When you are present, it doesn't mean that you are ignoring your past or you are ignoring your future. You are making your past and future a better place because we are all perfectly imperfect. I mean, in the real sense, yeah, in a spiritual point of view. You might say that I was the perfect student, I was the perfect person, I did the perfect stuff, I'm very perfect, but not in the real life. You may do such things outside, but in the spiritual life, we all are perfectly imperfect. So we have to understand everybody differently, every event that happened to us differently. Probably the people who harmed us, they may have harmed for different reasons. But now those things don't exist. And you don't see that those five aggregates that I had and they had are not existing anymore as well. In the same way, it applies to the future. So we are trying to be in the moment because if we take care of the moment, we are very good. We are not allowing our background thoughts to play all the time. Any questions, Dhamma folks? Today we've been talking about how not to dwell in the past because dwelling in the past is a problem. But I always ask you to go to the past. It is okay, but don't dwell in there. Don't stay in there. Go there, learn something, come back here. Go to the future, plan ahead, but don't stay there. Be here. If you are here, then you are executing, you are managing yourself very well, and you know how to stay in the moment. So, mindfulness in the modern psychological context means that you are fully present in the moment without being judgmental. I mean, a lot of people, they are judgmental all the time. Whenever somebody says something, they are always going back to something that happened in the past. Why can't we not judgmental? That is what these mindfulness teachers and modern mindfulness teachers, and also the Buddha, always teaches us. So, non judgmental, full awareness in the present moment. That is what we have to aim at all the time. Any questions, Dhamma folks? Please type in your questions here. Otherwise, I'm going to actually transfer good karmas to departed folks and deities. Okay, I don't see any comments as questions, so I'm going to actually head into the transference of good karmas to departed individuals and share good karmas with the deities, nagas. Today, we've been discussing about how not to dwell in the past, because dwelling in the past is a problem, but going to the past is okay to understand what happened and come back here is the best thing, but not to go to the past or not to the future, but stay in the moment by utilizing your past and the future to the best of you. This is what we've been talking. This is what the Buddha said with more, I would say, substantiated concepts, especially with regard to Bhattikarata Sutta. Buddha clearly says that when someone goes to the past, that means that person is attaching to their previous five attributes. When someone goes to the future, that means that person is attached to their future five attributes. Then what Buddha said is that do not do those two things. You have to be in the moment, but by bringing vipassana perspective into the present, uh, arisen five aggregates, antidukkhanata perspective. This is what Buddha said with regard to time. Okay, so let's transfer the good karmas to departed individuals. So may all the departed people who passed away in the name of all of you, your probably your parents, siblings, relatives, in-laws, probably and almost other individuals who passed away in the name of all of you in your past lives. May all those individuals be able to receive all these good karmas. If they are in a bad state of life, may all these good karmas be helpful for all of them to transition into a better life. If they are in a better life, may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. We have a custom in sharing good karmas with the devas and the nagas and other powerful beings. All these beings are non-humans. Let's contemplate on the good things we've been doing today by engaging in the Dhamma discussion, especially this mental health awareness talk, and in discussing Dhamma. May all the good karmas be shared by all the deities, nagas, and all these powerful beings. May they be happy and peaceful. May they bless all of us for good health, quality of our life, and all the prosperity for this year and the year that is coming up soon. May the deities, nagas, and all these powerful folks be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavatac amihi samvatang punya sampadang sabe deva anumodantu sabe bhuta anumodantu sabe satta anumodantu sabbasang patti sindhya akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhang tuluka sasanang Chirang Rakhang Tudesanang Chirang Rakhang Tumang Paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to bless you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessings. Abhivadana nichang vadha pachayino Chattaru dhamma baddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati saminchatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I hope you stay well, be safe, and have a good day and have a good night. Thank you.